moving on to a slightly different subject, talking about the protagonist perhaps more strongly, but characters. That we touched on characters earlier, and characters' motivation. You know, characters have an object of desire often, at least in the kind of classical sense. Do these objects of desire have to be more graspable, more concrete in place for young audiences, or can they be ephemeral or abstract?
Yeah, most definitely. I think they can be both ephemeral and abstract, and concrete for that sake. But I think what I think is that young people and children often have a sense of something which they can't explain or don't have the words for, and that in its nature is extremely abstract. So we can work both ways. We can try to concretize that, or we can try to make it into a metaphor. But most definitely, I don't think it needs to be concrete at all, because I think it often isn't. But I think we can help kind of make a place where we can talk about it, or imagine about it, or play about it, or talk about it, or
You have a lot of faith, it seems, in the intelligence and sensitivity of the young audience.
Yeah, they have faith in my intelligence, so I can do the favor back to them, I guess. Yeah, but I believe, I mean, I will believe anything that fascinates me. I will join the game, and I think they will as well. We will join the game. It's like, yeah, we agree upon this pretending in a sense. Yeah. But yeah, faith, I think we need to give them a lot of faith, and I think they deserve it.
Do you have any strategies or thoughts on how to write for different age groups? I mean, adults is just one big lump, but when you talk about children, it's, you know, baby theatre, and then it's, you know, the youngest in school and the oldest in primary school.
I think that is really hard. I find that hard in my work as well. I have this kind of sense of what age group I think it is about or for, but I think it has to do something with in what kind of ways do these age groups experience or look at the world, which is often quite, you can place some, not like rules, but you can often see some tendencies. The toddler being very touchy, wanting to experience with their skin, and then you have the fantasy or very imaginative, and perhaps in when you come to youngsters, there is more this kind of repression, or this kind of trying to find your place, or I don't know, almost this kind of aggression, not necessarily a bad aggression, but a kind of fuck it thing. And I think that these kinds of ways of looking at the world and experiencing the world is what inspires me when going into a work, I guess, for a certain age group. And sometimes you miss, but that's just the way it is.
Have you ever experienced that you thought a play was for one age group and it turned out to work really well for another age group, or that the same play had been performed to very different audiences?
Yeah, well, most of those cases are that some plays for very young people also kind of hits adults. That's what you see the most. But I've also experienced that I thought that I've written for quite an old child and turned out to be suitable for younger. But I guess it also depends on the way you produce things and stuff like that. But yeah.
You talked about the adults. Do you think is it important to consider the adults when you write? Do you?
Well, in a sense, it is, because they are the ones paying the ticket or bringing their kids to the theater, hopefully. but I think I a bit too often see children's theater for adults. I get that feeling that this has just been an excuse for making a playful theater for adults. That makes me really sad, that you don't take the age group kind of seriously, or what was the question again?
No, I was just wondering if you consider them when you write.
Oh, if I consider them, yeah, that was it, yeah. Well, not more in the sense that I think so much of the way we kind of experience the world is, or what we experience in the world are quite often the same or similar. But also you have this kind of, I believe that if you really write something suitable for young people and children, then there is almost always this, I don't know, sense of nostalgia or being moved or remembrance when it comes to adults, and that is always interesting to play with. But you can't focus too much on it, because then it tends to be a children play for adults instead of a children's play. Yeah.
You've been part of the European Writers' Lab.
Yeah.
So you've developed a new play, Satellites in the Night Sky, as part of the Theatre Café Festival project. That's also brought you around to these different festivals in York, Berlin, Oslo, Amsterdam. So you've met a lot of other writers from around Europe, seen a lot of theatre. What's your assessment on kind of the state of theatre for young audiences in Europe at the moment?
Yeah, well, I think it's really diversified. The plays differs a lot, both in themes and aesthetics and a grade of poetics and every sense of the word. I think I sensed some kind of political approach that was kind of popular, and that makes me happy, because I think politics is a perfectly normal part of their lives as well.
Can you expand on that?
Yeah, because they see the same world as we do, and in our world almost everything is controlled by politics. So in that sense, the feeling of all the political issues that we have to deal with also in some way trickles down to them. So yeah, I find that quite natural.